It's David Blaxhall with you through until midnight tonight, live from Nelson on Halloween 2004. We're coming to you from Gaslight Alley, investigating the legend of the Phantom Windbreaker of Old Nelson Town. I'm pleased to say we're joined on the telephone now, live from Clitheroe, by Simon Entwistle, who runs Top Hat Tours. Now, tonight, Simon's working with the Most Haunted team from Living TV. Very, very kindly joining us for a few minutes on the telephone. Simon, a fascinating legend.
A most amazing legend, one of East Lancashire's most famous characters, there's no doubt about it.
Shazam Dickens himself, very entrepreneurial.
A most amazing character, but also a very, very elusive character. You don't actually see the guy, but you can actually smell the character. And my goodness me, when he arrives, you really do have a definite whiff of his arrival, folks.
And also, there's the phantom trumping sounds as well that people have heard.
That's amazing, yes. When this guy comes to trumping, folks, he really does trump, and you can hear it from a long, long way away. This obnoxious sound, it's almost like a...
That could be quite frightening, I guess, Simon.
It's very, very frightening. He's been around for many, many years, and he's really, really sought after, actually. I've never, ever met him, but he's a really, really famous character with regards to East Lancashire legends. I bet he's quite a nice bloke to talk to, but my goodness me, not a nice guy to stand next to.
So when did you first hear about the legend of the Phantom Windbreaker of Old Nelson Town?
I heard about him through the Pendle Visitor Centre. The one thing he has done is brought a lot of tourists into East Lancashire. I believe there's books about him, photographs about him, but I've never personally met him because he's a very hard guy to try and track down. But I would love to meet him, just to actually talk to him, really.
Now, I guess the one thing that we haven't to forget, of course, is that before Shazam Dickens moved into the Nelson area to start the town's first curry house, it was going down an absolute storm with the music halls of the day on stage with that unique talent of his. So, yeah, we know that the guy existed in the Victorian era, but what about his spirit today? I mean, what do you think, Simon? Do you think that his spirit is still there in Gaslight Alley, or is it just, as many people say, a complete hoax to bring tourism into East Lancashire, and it's just a matter of stink bombs and trumping machines? What do you think?
No. He really exists. And, of course, the period of time where he existed, of course, was in the late Victorian period, and many a musical, not only in Great Britain, but of course in France and Belgium, echoed to his fabulous talent. It was really very much a European thing that he got organised, and he is probably the greatest ever British trumper that this country has ever produced.
Tell us a little bit more about the ghost walks that you do. I mean, obviously, the Phantom Windbreaker of Old Nelson Town, that must be a good foundation for starting walks in Nelson.
Yes, I've got some new tours based in Nelson and Colne for next year, folks. And the great thing about those two towns, firstly, I was actually born in Colne, so I'm a Colneite, actually. But we got heroes, we got villains, we got a most amazing character called Wallace Hartley. And Wallace, God bless him, he was the band master on the Titanic. He was actually offered one of the first places to leave the Titanic way back in that terrible venture. But he thought, no, I shall be a real gentleman and give my place to a lady. He walked back to the centre of the Titanic and cheerfully played to the band as the Titanic sank. That's just a typical hero of the area, really.
So here we are then, Simon. It's Halloween 2004. I guess you're on the other side of the hill, the other side of Pendle Hill tonight. Have you had a busy weekend with the ghost walks of Clitheroe?
Very, very, very busy. Of course, this part of Lancashire is really, really famous, folks, for Pendle witches. And you could say that out of all the Halloween stories, Pendle Hill is the mecca of all Halloween stories. I've been very, 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 very busy. Friday, 29th of October, 3 tours in Clitheroe. Saturday, 3 tours in Clitheroe. And of course tonight, Halloween, folks, we're also very, very busy in the town. I've also got the Most Haunted team with me, folks, so if you'd like to pop down to Clitheroe, you're more than welcome.
Simon, we wish you all the best. If people want to get hold of you to find out more about the tours, where can they call you?
Right. Contact Clitheroe Tourist Information Centre on 01200 425566. That's Clitheroe Tourist Information Centre, and they will gladly help you there, folks. Thank you.
Simon Entwistle of Top Hat Tours, happy Halloween to you, and I bet you're glad you're at the other side of the hill away from Gaslight Alley.
My goodness me, what a character. But hopefully, one day I might meet him.
You never know. Simon, we'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Very kind.
It's David Blaxhall coming to you live from Gaslight Alley in Nelson. We're investigating the legend of the Phantom Windbreaker of Old Nelson Town. Still a lot of calls coming into the station. We've got Dave and a whole team of people manning the phones. You can probably tell with the wind on the microphone, the wind's really whipped up in the alley. I have to say, though, that we haven't, at this point in time, picked up on anything at all. There's no smells, there's no sounds or anything like that. You might remember, though, from 2 years back when we came down here to do our first investigation in Gaslight Alley, things did happen just approaching midnight. We did, behind us, see a dark shape coming out of the old yard area, the empty ground where Shazad Dickens' curry hut first stood. And we thought that we heard trumping sounds. Now, whether that was a hoax or not, we don't know. But we'll see tonight if we can pick up on anything else. A lot of calls coming through to us, as I say. Anne in Nelson says that her dog refuses to go down Gaslight Alley. Well, I have to say, Anne, that last time, 2 years back when we came here, Casper, the Mad West Island Terrier, came with us. He went absolutely mad just towards midnight. But this time, he refuses to go down the alley, so one of the researchers has had to take him back home. Also, evening to Helen and Michael in Burnley, who say that they were looking at buying a property in Gaslight Alley, but when they heard about the legend, there was no way they were going to go through with it. What are we going to find out tonight? Let's just try and pick up on the atmosphere here in Gaslight Alley. At the moment, it's very quiet, apart from the wind. What will happen, though, between now and midnight? Very shortly, we're going to be talking to local solicitor Richard Farnworth, because it's interesting that Helen and Michael say that they pulled out of buying a property in Gaslight Alley. That's significant, as you'll find out when we're joined by Richard Farnworth here, because he's got some interesting stories to tell us. Richard Farnworth, local solicitor, joining us here very shortly in Gaslight Alley. Here we are then, back in Gaslight Alley in Nelson, and I'm joined now by Richard Farnworth, solicitor of the parish. So tell us, a little bit about this legend. Where did you first pick up on it?
Well, it was some clients who mentioned it to me, really. We do quite a bit of conveyancing in the Burnley and Pendle area, and methane is very common in the Nelson area. I think it stems from some of the old tips that were kicking about, and it came from there. I've made some inquiries, and clients came back to me with it.
So what happened eventually, Richard? You were dealing with the conveyancing, somebody was selling the property in Gaslight Alley, but it all fell through, what, because of the legend?
It did. It terrified them. Yes, they were very heavy smokers, so I think they were very, very concerned about there being a huge explosion, and so they just dropped and fell away, and I never heard from them again.
Now, the other strange thing, I know you were telling me just before we came on the air now, Richard, is that the land that we can actually just see behind us here, this is where Shazad Dickens actually had the very first curry house, and of course he exploded, the property itself was destroyed, and it's never been built on since, and that's very, very strange. Now, I know you've spoken to a number of solicitors in the area that have dealt over periods of time trying to sell the land and never gone through. It's all very strange, isn't it, that nobody has managed to get a contract through to build on this area.
Yes, it could be any one of a number of reasons. It could be because of the size of the explosion. It could be the instability of the land, and also I think when people have been doing surveys of the land, there's been some very strange noises, rumblings and groanings and all sorts of things, and I think that's put people off as well.
What's your feelings down here? Here we are, it's Halloween night, and I suppose just up the road there we've got the vibrant atmosphere of downtown Nelson, but down here it is a little bit eerie, isn't it, Richard?
Well, yes, David, it certainly is. I don't think I'd be hanging around here on my own on a dark night.
Well, I think, Richard, do we both agree at this moment in time that at the moment there's no sounds, nothing unusual, no obnoxious smells? At the moment, it's just like any other back alley, isn't it?
I suppose it is. Hang on, though, what was that? Was that you?
That was actually, to be honest, yeah. That wasn't the Phantom. Richard, thanks very much indeed. Richard Farnworth for joining us down here, live in Gaslight Alley on Halloween 2004. Here we are in Nelson. Richard, happy Halloween to you.
Thank you very much, David.